right off the top, because we are posting this on the birthday, Happy Canada Day.
Thank
And
you.
what a way to celebrate because you're going to help us celebrate so we can have some laughs, some thoughts, and just be Canadian. What are you doing for us on Canada Day?
Well, I'm dropping my album. I love saying that because I'm an old broad. I'm dropping my album on Canada Day in Ottawa, where I was born and bred, just literally around the corner from the hotel I'm staying at right now. And I have close friends coming. I've rented one of those little palapa boats with the straw hut top thing, and we're going to float down the Ottawa River and watch the fireworks.
Oh, that's going to be so cool. Now, before we get into this comedy album and the name and everything else, why did you step away in the first place? Because this is LL Cool J. Don't call this a comeback, but it's a comeback.
Well, I stepped away. I kept my hand in it a little bit here and there. I was doing, some commercials and that kind of thing. But, I got married. I had a kid when I was almost 40. I wanted to be home. My husband's a doctor. My husband's a doctor. And that's for my Jewish friends. And we have no family in Los Angeles. He's from Malaysia and I'm from Canada. So, he's working nights, weekends, and call, and somebody had to be home. And that was me, and it was fine. It was actually kind of nice having a baby when you're 40 because it was a good time to have one. Yeah. So I still worked a little bit when she went to summer camp and little things here and there, but I didn't really go out on the road or do anything like that.
So you've got the family and everything else, but somewhere along the line something changed.
My
And what was the change?
two things changed. My 27-year-old daughter moved back home, and my husband is sort of semi-retired and he's home all the time. And somebody had to get out of the house, and that's me. I had to get the hell out of there.
Now, during all this time, you said you dabble in little things like that, but were you also like, paying attention to what's going on with comedy as comedy evolves? Were you sort of like maybe like a little diary, writing things down, or just going, if I ever came back, I'd like to do this or like to do that?
Yeah, yeah, no, I have a running thing on my computer under jokes, and I think of something and I would put it in there. But also in the middle of all this, I forgot I was involved in politics. I was elected to two terms of politics in Los Angeles at the municipal level. So I did a decade in politics too, and that I stopped that I think 3 years ago. So it all sort of came together at the same time.
Okay, so all this is coming. When does the light bulb click and go, you know what? It's time for me to get back. Time for me to put a comedy album together. Time to get back what I'm also great at.
I turned 65 and it was a big pivotal moment in my life. And I was not happy with the way I looked. I was 50 pounds fatter than I am right now. I was not doing what I wanted to be doing. And I thought, yeah, like one more kick at the can, kid, because you're 65. Like it's not 25, it's 65. If you're lucky, you got another 25 years. What do you want those 25 years to look like? And I decided I'd never done an album. I had recorded one a few years ago, but I didn't release it. I wasn't happy with it. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I wasn't happy being stuck in LA waiting for my agents to call me for, projects that sometimes happened, sometimes didn't. I really wanted concrete evidence that I'd been on this planet and that I had spent over 40 years in comedy. So the first thing I did was I decided I was going to do an album. I flew to Toronto. I had lunch with Mark Breslin, who's an old friend who owns Yuck Yucks. And I said, look, Mark, this is what I want to do. And he said, okay, whatever you need. I said, okay. So I rented a condo in Toronto for the winter because I'm crazy. And I made sure it was walking distance to Yuck Yucks. And I worked 4 or 5 nights a week at Yucks. And then I worked on the weekends at their different clubs around Burlington, Oshawa, Niagara Falls, so on and so forth. Did that for the winter. And then the last 2 weeks of April, I recorded the album. And then I came back to LA and then I can let things slide sometimes. So I decided, how do I want to release this thing? So I thought Canada Day. Then I've got a deadline. Then I gotta focus. And that's what I did, and it's done. And it's happening tomorrow.
Okay, so actually happening today. Remember, this is going
Oh,
on. So
sorry. Yeah,
that's
what did that
okay. So
okay.
we're gonna link this one so
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
think that.
Yeah.
So what is actually the name of the album? And what is it about? What's the theme?
It's called Unretired. I really, originally the name was I'm Not Dead Yet. But a couple of people said it was a little morbid,
Yeah.
no sense of humor at all. So I got a little pushback on that. So I came up with Unretired. And
Oh,
it
and theme.
and that's the theme is that I'm unretired and talking about my husband being home and my daughter being home and yeah, and my mother getting old and what kind of gifts do you buy an 89-year-old for their birthday? I got her an urn, that kind of stuff. So a lot about getting older, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So what was all this? What was it like for you to be up on stage with the comedy? What was reaction like from the audience?
They were fantastic. And the one thing that I've changed in my act that I didn't do when I was younger, I do a lot of crowd work now. And I love it, and the audience loves it. And so I kind of weave my jokes into, like, I talk about marriage. And if there's somebody in the audience who's been married a long time, then I'll, talk to them and that kind of thing. Or somebody's just gotten engaged, I'll talk about that. Or so I weave my life stories into their life stories, and it all comes together. And everybody feels like they're part of the show, and people love that.
You know, it's funny when you talked about politics earlier because I've said this a million times. To me, being an entertainment reporter for 30 plus years, I've always said the smartest people are comedians because they are so aware of their surroundings, they're aware of politics, they're aware of people in general, they're aware of so many things. And I always said that I think a comedian, a comic, like Russell Peters, they should run for government because
Yeah.
they know so much and they're so always quick to come up with ideas and stuff. What do you think about that, especially for the life you've led?
Well, it was interesting when I was in politics, that um, I was often funny and I had to bite my tongue many times not to be inappropriate. When people would say, we have these board meetings that could go we had one time a woman in her 80s and she was a president of the neighborhood council and she had been there forever and they had a whole thing about Billy the elephant at the LA Zoo being forced to give his she kept referring to his specimen for their breeding program. And now you have to imagine this lady with like perfect hair and makeup and high heels and pearls, and she would not use the word semen. And I would say to the lady, my person beside me, I put my hand over the mic, I go, $20. She doesn't say, come on, just semen, just say it. Semen. So, um, that kind of stuff. I brought a little levity to some very tedious meetings.
And also, I'm curious too because I've asked this to many comics. How do you think that stage, that microphone, how do you think it's changed over the years? Because of course, when I grew up, you can't see this, but this is my
No,
Red
that is
Fox shirt,
Red Fox. Yeah, I
with
love
a
Red Fox.
little "You Big Dummy."
Yes.
It was very raw, the jokes, but people would sit back and they would laugh.
Yep.
It seems like today, if comics say anything that's not politically correct, you now literally have people jumping up on stage. They're
Yep.
yelling stuff out. They will even strike comics. What do you think about this change in attitude, the way the audience reacts to comics?
I think it's ridiculous. And I was on the social a few weeks ago, like April, I think, and that was one of the questions. Lisa Kudrow apparently had come up with something about asking about woke and all that kind of stuff. And my act, by the way, not woke. And I'm married to a brown guy, and I make all kinds of jokes about Indian families. I just say dot in the forehead, not tomahawk. I make jokes about I'm the first white woman to ever be on the Nubian show, and I've done it twice now, killed both times. Um, I am not afraid to cross those lines. And as a matter of fact, I love crossing those lines because you got to laugh at this stuff. I mean, you can't,
Yeah.
it's not, if people are saying something from racism or sex, like that. I feel that when somebody is playing. But you're a brown guy and I'm a pasty white girl. And people who say they don't see color are stupid because I see it. Is how do you interpret that? How do you interpret color, or in my case, lack thereof?
No, and I absolutely agree with you. But the question is always asked too is there a point where the line should not be crossed.
I'm not going to make that, I'm not going to make that decision for people.
Good.
I'm not making that decision for people. I think you're on stage, you can read your room. You know what you can say and not. For instance, in the album, there's a little spot in there. I ask if there's any Indian people, and there's a woman right beside the stage, and she's very, very light-skinned. And she goes, "I'm Indian." I go, "Wow, you're very light-skinned." She goes, I said, 100%. She said, "Yeah." I said, "Wow, you must be really rich." And the audience kind of went, and I said, "Oh, please, my family's been, the brown people have been calling me the white girl forever." And the color of people's skin in a brown family, the darker you are, the less likely they want you, the whiter you can be when you're brown, but when you're white, they want you to be browner. It doesn't make any sense. But people, I talk about that. My husband has ashy elbows and knees. I'm like, put some cream on. You got ashy elbows and knees. It's life. It's not. If people are offended by that, too bad. I don't know what to say.
I am so glad I grew up when I grew up.
Yep.
I'm so glad that I got to hear and witness the some of the greatest comics, and even going up to the 90s and early 2000s. I thought, especially, and here's the other question I want to ask too, especially in Canada around that time. What do you think it is up here that we have so many great comedians? It's like I every time I turn around and I see somebody on stage, or I see a TV or special or whatever, a lot of them end up being from Canada. And
Yeah.
I'm going, this is crazy. Like, what do you think it is? Is it the water? Do we mix it up with maple syrup? What is it?
Well, by the way, amateur night when I started here at Yuck Yucks, right, literally 2 blocks from here, amateur night was Norm Macdonald, Jeremy Hotz, me, and Chris Finn. That was amateur night in Ottawa. We
Wow.
all started here.
But what is it? Why are we so good at it?
I don't know, but we are good at it. I think we're the best at it, and I don't know. I've been asked that question before, and I don't really have an answer. I think. I don't think Canadians are mean-spirited as other people can be. So maybe their comedy can be, but all those comics I just mentioned are all different. Norm and Jeremy could not be more different. I could not be more different than they are. Chris Finn's made a brilliant career out of a writer for This Hour is 22 Minutes and some other big shows. We're all very different, but we all, here we are.
Here we are. How do we get the album? What do we do?
It drops tomorrow, and I don't know my daughter's. It's going to be on on the Spotify and on the
Mhm.
whatever. My daughter's put it all together for me on CD Baby or something or other. It's all ready to go, and I guess it's go to one of those places and put my name in and unretired, and I should pop up. I hope
Are
that
you
works.
going to be doing any more shows as we go into summer and fall?
Yeah, so I'm here in Ottawa for 2 days promoting the album,
Mhm.
and then I fly to Toronto, and then I'm working in Toronto this weekend and promoting the album for the next 2 weeks in Toronto. And then I'm coming
And
back in August again.
any chance you gonna maybe get yourself back on television or maybe the big screen or something like that? Any thoughts?
Well, that's my plan. I have what I've always wanted to do, and I did a pilot years ago for CBC, and it didn't go anywhere. We lost the funding, but I want a talk show. I think Canada needs a talk show,
Oh
a
gosh,
Canadian talk
yeah.
show. And I haven't, it's called Beaver Tales, Tales. And I want to do a talk show in Canada with
Yeah,
Canadians. That's what I want. And
we
I want,
definitely we definitely need that. No, definitely need that. And any chance that you might start thinking about writing a book about your life.
oh, I never crossed my mind. No,
Really?
really. I don't think I have that exciting a life. I don't know. I never crossed my
Excuse
mind.
me. Look what we just talked about, and that's like just a drop in the water. You got to be kidding. I think a book is the next best thing to come
Well,
out
I
for you.
will think about that, Rudy. Thank you for, I'll put that up there. But we're
And
putting it,
then
I'd love this album to win a Juno. We're putting this out into the universe right now. I'd like it to win a Juno. I'd like to host the Junos, is what I'd like to do. And I would like a talk show called Beaver Tales in Canada.
okay.
And I want to move back to Toronto. I miss Canada.
Fantastic. Oh, very last question. Is this going to be on vinyl? Yes or no?
Probably, yeah. I think so. We're gonna.
Yes. Got to have the vinyl. Thank you so much for doing this interview with
Oh,
me.
it's been an
Happy
absolute
Canada
pleasure.
Day.
Thank
And
you.
I am so happy that you have unretired. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.